Hi class. All right, the next sauce we're gonna make is Beurre Blanc. And Beurre Blanc is a butter sauce. And Beurre Blanc would translate as white butter sauce. So it contains white wine and butter. Those are the main two ingredients. It also has generally something very acidic like lemon juice, which we'll use, or possibly a vinegar. Usually has shallots, and then it's usually finished with parsley. But it can be thought of as kind of a lemon Beurre Blanc, very basic and wonderful on fish. Or you can do a more complex Beurre Blanc and think of it almost as a base. I've done things like grapefruit Beurre Blanc, grapefruit thyme Beurre Blanc, and put it on a grilled halibut, and that was nice. Used to do a shrimp and mushroom Beurre Blanc sauce. So there's a lot of different things you can add at the end to make it interesting. So I'm going to show you two different methods also. There's the method where you just take white wine, and actually both methods start the same. So we're going to take white wine, lemon, shallots, and reduce that au sec. And in the standard method, we whisk butter off the heat once it's reduced au sec. Au sec is almost dry. In the second method, we reduce the white wine, lemon, and shallots au sec, but then we add cream to it. We add cream, cook that down by half. So let's say we add half a cup of cream. We'll cook it down to about a quarter cup, plus whatever was there with the reduction. And when we cook cream down by half, we're essentially cooking out the water and leaving butter fat behind. So it's kind of another way to add butter. Creamier, more interesting, I think. But both these methods are what I'm going to show you now. So I'm going to move the camera over here. Actually, let's take a look at the mise en place. I've got white wine, lemon, shallots, a little white pepper, salt, and parsley. So here we go. Let's set you up here and see if I can get you pointing down on the action down below there. All right. So here we go. I've got two pans. I'm going to add about a half a cup of white wine to each one. I'm going to crank up the heats on these. So I want them to reduce pretty quickly. About half a cup in each one. We're going to add the shallots. I've got about a shallot and a half here, so a tablespoon in each one. Lemon juice, this is the juice of about a lemon and a half, so I don't need the whole thing in each, but I want some acidity. So one way to think about this sauce is, it's almost pure butter. It's almost pure butter, but it becomes relatively light because of the acidity. So the acidity from the white wine, the acidity from the lemon, and that's what we're looking for. I'm going to add just a little pinch of white pepper to each one, not too much, and a pinch of salt. Again, not too much. I like to add these at the end, and I'm certainly going to save the parsley for the end. Parsley will retain its color nicely if I don't cook it. All right, so these we're going to reduce down to au sec. I've got some butter here that's chopped up, and that'll be used in one of the methods entirely. And as long as you add the butter slowly and keep it whisking off the heat, it won't melt per se. It'll stay emulsified, which is really kind of a miracle. If you think about butter, it is already emulsified. It's about 20% water anyway. I showed you in a past video where we clarified the butter and we melted it down, and we didn't pour that water in, we didn't pour the solids in. It was fully emulsified. It was out of emulsification when we melted it. So here we want to keep this emulsified, but get it in sauce form. So that's kind of a little miracle to be able to pull off, and to be able to melt butter and keep it emulsified. So I'm going to show you how that happens. And the cream method's a little easier anyway. I'm going to turn this one down a bit, and we'll take this one first, and we'll do this with the butter. We'll grab a whisk. I don't want this one to reduce quite as much, and I'm going to pull that off. We'll save that for the cream method. I'm going to show you the other method first. And so when we say au sec, that means almost dry. We don't really want it to get quite dry, so au sec means down to a little bit less than a tablespoon. I've got my room temperature butter ready to go. We are getting very close. Sometimes when it just sits in the pan, that's enough for it. All right. Just running it around the sides, and that is good. So it is down to less than a tablespoon now. I'm going to turn that off. Remember, this is done off heat. And we're going to add the butter just a little bit at a time. So a cube or two while we stir. And we're going to keep it moving the whole time. This will help the butter stay emulsified. So I'm going to kind of break it up a little bit, keep it moving. And what we end up doing is going by taste to get it just right. So keep it moving. Let that butter emulsify without breaking. And that is our challenge here. All right, that butter's getting in. Go ahead and add another one. If I break it up a little bit, it tends to kind of go in a little bit faster. And for a cup of white wine, I only added about a half a cup here, a quarter cup. I'm not making a full batch. And the juice of probably 2 lemons, you'd probably use a full pound of butter and emulsify it in. I'm not going to use that much. I'm probably using maybe a quarter to a third of a pound is what I've got in here at this point. So hopefully you can see that. It is still emulsified. It doesn't look like melted butter. I've still got a little chunk there. If I was to let that sit, that would come out of emulsification and it would start the sauce breaking. If I heat this sauce up too much, it's going to cause it to break. So it's got to be held warm. A lot of times on the hotline, we'll hold these in thermal containers to keep them warm. If it gets too cold, it's going to solidify. If it gets too hot, it's going to heat up and break. So a little parsley mixed in here at the end. And that is a basic lemon beurre blanc. Set that down. We'll finish off this one. So I'm going to let that heat come up. And we're going to add a little bit of butter at the end, but not too much. So we'll let this come up to a boil. I want that to reduce just a bit further. Here's the beurre blanc. It's not real thick. And this is, again, remember, this is pure butter. So it doesn't take much of this on fish or whatever. And you should check for balance. It should be pretty acidic. And it is. And it tastes incredibly light for being pure butter. All right. So this is reduced down to au sec as well. I'm going to add about a half a cup of cream. And we'll reduce that down to a quarter cup. I can add this while it's boiling. It should be fine. Let's swirl a little bit. We're going to reduce that by half. So this is kind of another way to add butter to a sauce. And a reduced cream sauce is a thing too. So just reducing cream is a way to make a sauce. There's no thickening agent in there. It's just thickened cream. But if you think about reduced cream, what you really got is a butter sauce. So that's what we're dealing with. All right, I'm going to let this reduce down. I'm going to see if I can move a little bit closer here. Actually, I bet you can see on this one. You can almost see on that one. I'll try to keep it in a spot you can. All right, we're going to let that cream reduce a little bit. Get a good angle here. You can see it's boiling. What I look for on this is the bubbles to sort of enlarge a little bit, where they get bigger. They're kind of tiny bubbles right now. Once they get big, that means it's probably reduced to a point where it's starting to thicken. Then what I'll do is when I've got it reduced enough, I'll remove it from the heat, and I'm going to whisk in a small amount of butter. Where I added maybe a quarter to a third of a pound in the last one, I'm just going to add a couple cubes just to finish it with a little bit of butter. You can see it's starting to kind of thicken up a little bit. Those bubbles are getting bigger. We're almost there. It's going to start to thicken up a little bit as well. All right, I'm going to need both hands again. So I'm going to put this back over here, and I think you can see pretty well. All right, so we started with white wine, lemon, and shallots, a little bit of white pepper, and this is starting to thicken up. We'll finish it with a little butter, and then the same with the parsley at the end. Sometimes it's nice to take it off the heat a little bit and kind of see how much it's thickened and what you're dealing with. And it's just about there. I'm going to give it just about 20 more seconds of a nice hard boil. Just reduce a little bit more H2O out of there. You can see those bubbles getting big, and that's it. That's getting turned off. I'm going to grab a couple pieces of butter. It's not going to take much, and I'm going to add those. And again, off the heat, and these get whisked in. And I find that the cream method is just a little bit more stable than the non-cream method. So a little parsley in here. Whisk this. And I want you to see these side by side. Pour this into a bowl. That's the cream. Here's the non-cream. Take a look. The cream is a little lighter in color. The butter sauce with no cream is a little bit thinner, probably. It just looks a little creamier. They're both lovely. They're both delicious, and important to get that skill of making Beurre Blanc sauces. All right, bye for now.